Sekeres and Price for November the 10th, 2023. Welcome to the Go Sports Studios inside the Wall Center. If you're planning a holiday party, don't forget about the Wall Center. Offers over 55,000 square feet of striking indoor and outdoor space, and they've got that 34th floor meeting and reception space offering sweeping views. We've had a Christmas party there ourselves. Contact them at sales@wallcenter.com. Glad to have you aboard, Sekeres and Price. Always a presentation of the Applewood Auto Group and Applewood Infinity in Richmond right now, offering up the QX50. That's Matt's baby. Finance it from 0% and no charge winter tires on select trims as well. Get the Q50 financing from 1.99% as well, because it's all good at Applewood. Glad to have you aboard here after the Vancouver Canucks get another victory, 5-2 over the Ottawa Senators. And we've got Jeff Paterson in tow for the vacationing Matt Sekeres. He's going to catch some football south of the border this weekend. Jeff, this is a good opportunity to get you in this 3-game and 4-day stretch here, and the Canucks just keep rolling.
Yeah, 5 in a row. They've picked up points in 9 straight. They are 8-0-1. Matt was in with me on Rink Wide, and we were scrambling to try to go back through the history books to find the last time that they had picked up points in 9 straight. I mean, these are heady times for the Vancouver Canucks, who weren't at their best, and that seemed to be the theme after the game. Rick Tocchet, JT Miller, others that did post-game, they recognized that they weren't at their best. They got outshot 30-16. They let a 2-0 lead get away, but they found a way ultimately, and that's what this team is doing. And you say, okay, they weren't at their best. Like, Elias Pettersson didn't dominate. Like, he still had 3 points. He scores an incredible one-timer on the power play. And so if that's his B game or his C+ game, it's still enough to boost him to the top of the NHL scoring derby. That's where he sits heading into action tonight. So yeah, maybe not at his best, but that's what the greats truly do, is they find ways to contribute. And look who scored the goals for the Canucks last night. Besser, 15 seconds in. JT Miller, moments after Brady Tkachuk had missed what looked like a sitter that would have put Ottawa in front. Miller snaps one home, and then Elias Pettersson. So they're getting goals from their big guns. Ilya Mikheyev with 2 more, and what an addition he's turned out to be for this hockey club, where I think a lot of us thought he was going to need more runway here to find his game, but he's up to 5 goals already. And so, as they have throughout the season, their top guns just continue to carry the day, even when maybe not at the very top of their individual games.
Guys like Mikheyev and Kuzmenko, you feel like there's another gear still for them. Both of them accumulating points at almost a point per game pace. And is Mikheyev actually used his speed to accumulate many of these points? Not really.
No, but I think we're seeing his size, his hockey smarts.
Yeah.
And again, he's going to get better. Like, there's room for him to grow, right? Just to beat guys one-on-one with his speed. I think we're starting to see him slowly integrate into the penalty kill as well. And that was a sort of, one of the storylines, but a small storyline last night was the penalty kill went 2 for 2. So it was perfect. But both penalties came in the first period. Discipline. They didn't take a penalty after the first period. So, one thing the Sens can do is score. They've got high-end talent, but outside of Drake Batherson, I thought the Canucks did a pretty nice job on Brady Tkachuk, aside from that one chance that I mentioned. Tim Stützle, I mean, he's fun to watch, but he certainly didn't dominate that hockey game. The Canucks didn't let the Senators' top-end guys take over. And at the end of the night, when you look at the score sheet at the very least, forget how the game looked as it unfolded on the score sheet, you've got Pettersson, you've got Miller, you've got Besser, you've got Quinn Hughes chipping in. The Canucks' top-end guys left their mark on this hockey game more than Ottawa's did.
The Canucks got the early goal. 15 seconds in, a heck of a way to start a road trip, and they'd add to their lead a little later as well. And yet they did not pile on the shots. They were late into the second period with 7 shots on goal. But shots against, and I kept on, I was watching with a group of people, and we were remarking on the shots 4, which were not great, but the shots against weren't exactly gaudy. When you're being outshot 25-7, that looks bad. It was, I think, 16-7. Not great with the 7, but 16 against is great. Like, it was pretty good defensive play. It might have felt like a lucky win. Our poll question today: do you care if the Canucks get lucky wins? Yes or no? log on, cast your vote, and let us know what you think. Of course, available on our social handles at Sekeres and Price on Twitter. And well, first, do you think it's a lucky win? Do you think that was just a cagey win? How would you describe what we saw there?
Yeah, I mean, based on the shot clock, they're getting shot by a 2-1 margin. That would tell you that you're spending too much time defending. But you go under the hood, and the underlying numbers had the high danger scoring chances at 9-3 for the Canucks at even strength in that hockey game.
Right.
And that does sort of match up that, yes, they gave up 30 shots, but the Sens were playing for the second night in a row. They had come off a good win in Toronto. And I thought for the most part, the Canucks kept them to the outside, to the perimeter, allowed Casey DeSmith to make this. Like, the Canucks win this game with a backup goaltender. Night number 2 of the season in Edmonton, DeSmith was one of the stories because he stood on his head. He faced all sorts of rubber. Like, credit to him for doing what he had to do to get a result last night, but I didn't feel like Casey DeSmith was one of the real stories to emerge out of that hockey game. And I think that speaks to the way the game unfolded. Is that the Canucks, yes, they gave up some chances. And sure, the Senators got 2, but they didn't get that third one. And, this is another thing, I guess, where we talk about the Canucks maybe not at their best. I think in years gone by, like the Ian Cole flub, and Ian Cole's been terrific. He's been a really good pickup for this Vancouver Hockey Club, but he hands the puck away to Pettersson and they score. Now, all of a sudden, the Sens are on the board. It's a 2-1 hockey game. I think in years gone by, that would have led to the Canucks just caving, that they couldn't handle a reversal of that kind of fortune. And even the second Senators goal, it's a fourth line goal. It's Artem Zub, who doesn't score many as a defenseman, deflects in off Elias Pettersson. You can call that one a bit of an unfortunate bounce. Fourth line against the Canucks top line, and they had Hughes and Hronek on the ice. Again, I like the fact that the Canucks didn't cave. Like that, I think in years gone by, that kind of thing might have set this hockey club off, but maybe that's a sign of growth and development. And back to the question about luck, I think for the most part, the fans are saying, like, who cares about luck at this point? Like, put as many points in the basket as you can right now. If the luck turns, I don't think the luck's going to run out, just the way that the star players are playing on this hockey club. But if the luck turns in any way, like, put all of that into your account now. And like 10 wins, they got 10 wins in their first 13 hockey games. And the other part of this is, I think there is a good chunk of this fan base that would be willing to trade some of this luck after Saturday night. Keep the luck going. You're going into Toronto, the big stage, Hockey Night in Canada. I think fans want to believe that the luck can last for at least one more game to stick it to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Some of the early reaction to the poll question, David saying, absolutely not. It's about time luck came for a visit. Long overdue. Chef Swagger, no, as long as they are aware that they were lucky and find areas to improve upon. Mike in Portland, luck is so often the product of work. Good process means effective work. If the process isn't good, and there have been nights where that was the case, and wins are still happening, then I am concerned playoffs are a step, not a destination. That's an interesting one because despite some of the stats working against the Canucks last night, were they terribly outplayed? Did you feel like they were being caved in at any point in the game?
I thought after the 2-0 lead, the remainder of the first period, they had one shot on goal, and it was an Ilya Mikheyev breakaway. And if he scores there, it's 3-0. It's probably lights out for the Senators. There's probably no coming back from a 3-0 deficit on home ice in the first period. But he did. He made one save in the first period, and it turned out to be a pretty big one because the shots were 11-3. I thought after the 2-0 lead, and you're right, like to start a road trip, trying to carry the momentum 15 seconds in, it needed some review, but there was no doubt that puck was across the line. And then Mikheyev, a few minutes later, I did think they spent the balance of the first period. Now, Ottawa had its 2 power plays, and so that played into it. They hit a crossbar on one of the power plays. Again, it was Batherson, who I thought easily their best player on the night. So the Canucks defended a lot over the final 15 minutes of the first period, but really after that, I thought, even though they were outshot, again, I didn't feel like they were outplayed. I didn't feel like they were pinned in their own zone and, battling. We've seen some stretches like the first period the other night against the Oilers and a few others along the way where the Canucks could barely come up for air. It didn't have that same feeling to me last night in Ottawa.
The performance of Casey DeSmith and the importance of getting that result. Like, is one thing that he gets the win. Fabulous. but it's also points and rest for Thatcher Demko. And, it had been a while for Casey DeSmith, but he's likely to get another start this weekend, obviously, with the back to back games. And the fact that they are employing him right now, getting points. I mean, he's 4-0. If he was 2-2, if he was 2-1-1, I think people would be ecstatic about it, because they're also making sure they're not overworking Thatcher Demko. And the fact that they're having a week where he starts twice, considering how hot they've been played, you'd be tempted to ride Thatcher Demko, and they're not succumbing to that temptation, which is nice.
Yeah, I think for me, I think Rick Talk's coaching staff have done a really nice job in handling Thatcher Demko and limiting his workload. Some of that is that there's already clearly a trust in Casey DeSmith that, hasn't been here with the backups. Certainly last year, goaltending was a different story with the injury to Demko. But this idea that they can turn to Casey DeSmith and not just to get Demko a rest, but they believe in this guy now to deliver results. And he's done that. A win against Edmonton, a win in Florida, a win now against the Ottawa Senators. And I think for me, this is sort of one of the early, there's so many early season storylines, but that 4 games now feels like a run for Thatcher Demko in the eyes of this organization, that they don't need to push him 6, 7, 8 games in a row before they feel it's beneficial for him to get a chance to have a night off to work with Ian Clark, so that he's going to be fresh and ready to go against the Leafs, I would presume. And then you come back with DeSmith in Montreal on Saturday. So when the schedule came out, and at that point they hadn't made the trade for Casey DeSmith, I really believed, with only one set of back-to-backs in the first 15 games, that Thatcher Demko was going to play 12 or 13 of the first 15. It hasn't turned out that way. They haven't needed them. And so this is all gravy for the Vancouver Canucks, because the longer they can employ this formula and the longer they keep winning and stay above the playoff bar, ultimately, then you start to make decisions with an eye to down the road. And I don't want to get ahead of myself too far, but it's not about, having arrested Thatcher Demko in the regular season. The reason you want him fresh and ready is that if this team does qualify for the playoffs, you want one of your difference makers, at the top of his game. And the way that they're employing their goaltenders right now, if they can continue to roll this out over the long haul, it's going to put them in an awfully good position. So, yeah, what a luxury to have 2 netminders that you trust and rely on that ultimately can deliver results for you.
This reminds me of my anecdotal evidence here of what this season start has done for the Vancouver Canucks. I have a lot of kids, as you know, but my younger children, 13, 15 years of age, I've caught wind of discussions about the Canucks of late, and around their friends too. It's happened on multiple occasions now, including some of their friends. Wait, the Canucks are good? Wait, the Canucks are a first place team? Like, these kids have grown up in the darkest of days. Like, they don't understand that it was even possible.
It was punishment.
Yeah, exactly. And here they are actually winning hockey games near the top of the league. And it's actually kind of crazy that they're not at the top of the league. And, been getting a lot of questions. How is this even happening? Well, the superstars have gotten better. Like, in addition to all the nice additions to the team, the Ian Coles and Soucies of the world, and DeSmith, we didn't know if it was possible for these superstars to be better. I find myself looking at the box scores and going, 3 assists for Pettersson. Really? Like, he was fine. Was he electric? No. 3 points for Elias Pettersson. Quinn Hughes, I'm disappointed when I look and I see only 1 point. Like, it's bizarro world stuff for fans, I think, and media that have been around this team for the past decade.
Right. Elias Pettersson had 102 points last season. He announced his arrival. He was a top 10 scorer in the NHL. Like, this is now a star level player, but leading the NHL in scoring, like, come on, that's a whole nother level. And I think even more so for Quinn Hughes, who had 76 points last year, and we all watched, and he was phenomenal. But the way that he is just commanding games now, and I saw that stat yesterday about
possession.
And like, the gap between 1 and 2 is the same as the gap between 2 and like 1,000.
Yeah.
And Quinn Hughes is just the leader by so far. And when he's got the puck on his stick, good things happen, and they have all season. And so you're right. But this goes back to the point that, like, he wasn't electric last night, but there's a pretty damn good chance then that he's going to be electric on Saturday in Toronto, right? Like, if that was an off night, he still figures in the scoring. They win going away, and that he can be a whole lot better than he was. So, yeah, Pettersson, 3 points. Miller gets the game winner. Demko had a night off, but we know what Thatcher Demko has meant to this hockey club. And then the supporting cast, Mikheyev with a pair, Kuzmenko, a couple of assists, Phil DiGiuseppe. We barely talk about him, but I thought he was terrific last night. 2 primary assists and deservedly so. Like, that's a sweet feed to Besser off the rush to start the game. And then, Ian Cole breaks up the play in the neutral zone, but DiGiuseppe puts it right into Miller's wheelhouse for the goal that turned out to be the game winner. So he's not just window dressing. He's not just in on the forecheck on a night like last night. Phil DiGiuseppe, part of this as well. So yeah, star power leveled up, but also the supporting cast. It really is hard to find a guy that isn't pulling his weight, which is so interesting now with Teddy Bluger knocking on the door to get back into the lineup, maybe as early as Sunday in Montreal, inject some fresh legs at the end of the road trip. But, and I've seen this question a lot out. And so like, who's coming out? Like, I'm not even sure that the coaching staff knows, truly game by game. And I mean, injury could force some decisions in that regard, but they're pretty close to fully healthy, knock on wood for them right now. So yeah, I mean, just everything coming up roses for the Vancouver Canucks right now.
Not only is everything going so great for the Canucks, but key schadenfreude year for the Vancouver Canucks, or start at least. Watching the division foes play like they are. Like, there's some surprises like the Anaheim Ducks and stuff like that, but Canucks fans don't bother themselves with that. They're focused on the bottom right now, where the San Jose Sharks have won back-to-back games. Who'd have thunk that was possible? And of course, it comes over the Edmonton Oilers, who are now tied with the Sharks at 5 points apiece. And that almost feels like a win for Vancouver Canucks fans, who take great glee. And not only in that, but also in the individual stagnation, like Connor McDavid's stats for the year. Like, how is that even possible? He is a one-man show if need be. We saw that in the early years of him with the Edmonton Oilers. He alone can get points, but he alone is not getting points. He alone is not dragging them to victories. They've always had bad goaltending. Why is it only now affected? They were having 100-point years, 50-win years with bad goaltending. It's remarkable what's happening to the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, and it's funny because people are obviously taking great delight in all of this. And you're right, the goaltending getting a ton of attention, the coaching staff. I don't think enough is being made of McDavid, who missed those 2 games prior to the Heritage Classic. And since that game, and we saw him here lose his mind the other night against the Canucks, he was a complete non-factor. And again, last night in San Jose, he's got 1 point in his last 4 games. So I know that he's hurting and he's not at 100%, but I still thought that there would be more there, that
Right.
when this team needed him, that he would find a way. And so I think that's a massive part of this story. I had to laugh. I saw somebody on Twitter say, "Oh, come on, it's not all bad." The Oilers do have a game in hand on the Sharks.
That's where we're at.
Just back to McDavid, I was looking at this last night, and I tweeted this out, that, like, again, there are just so many crazy stats around the Canucks and the rate that they're scoring. But Blake, on the 10th of November, the Vancouver Canucks have 6 players, including 2 defensemen, with more points than Connor McDavid does right now.
I mean, and we're starting to eat our way to the 20-game mark.
Right.
I mean, like it's arm's reach away, the 20-game mark.
16 points clear of the Oilers now.
Yeah. Bizarre stuff again, really is. So we'll keep our eye on that, and a little bit more on that coming up later on in the show.